We'll begin the meeting.
Good evening. I would like to call the business meeting of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Tuesday, June 20th, 2017, and the Portland Board of Public Education is meeting at Casco Bay in room 200. May I please ask the superintendent to call the roll?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Ms. Seeliger?
Here.
Ms. Vendel?
Here.
Ms. Hatzenbuehler?
Here.
Ms. Davis?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Morioni? Mr. Eater?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Presente.
Ms. Donato? Ms. Farah?
Here.
Ms. Hassan? And Mr. Siegel? And Chair Trevorrow.
Here. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the report of the chair tonight, I wanted to let everyone know that I did make appointments to the Appointments Committee. As you know, there will be some upcoming work for that committee, and the appointments are Ms. Thompson as chair, Mr. Eater, and Mr. Rodriguez as members. I also wanted to let the board know that tomorrow, the superintendent and myself and Ms. Vendel will be flying out to San Francisco for the annual Institute for Educational Leadership Conference on family and community engagement. We have a contingency from Portland going this year, which includes the PEA president, Sue Olafson, the mayor, Pius Ali from the city council. We also have Sophie Payson from Portland High School, Kevin Brewster from Reiki, and I believe that's everyone. And we wanted to thank the NEA, the MEA, and the PEA for helping us sponsor this trip. We met as a team last week to talk about how we're going to engage in this conference and bring back that work here to Portland. So we're very excited. And I see Sue out in the back there. Thank you for coming. So that concludes the report of the chair. Moving on to report of the students, we have Deering High School.
Hello. Okay, just situate myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Sahar Lafera, and I am a rising junior at Deering High School. And for starters, I'd like to quickly acknowledge that this will be the last report and meeting for our academic school year. So I guess congratulations to everybody for making it, including myself. No. And I'd like to begin by acknowledging the International Culture Day that was organized by Deering Seeds of Peace that we had at our school. We indulged in beautiful cultural wear, music, and especially really good food brought by our students and faculty. And for an event that fell off for a few years at DHS, it was really important to me as the daughter of immigrants and being a Black Muslim. It was refreshing and very needed at this point in our time to be recognized so beautifully and thoughtfully at our school. And it's one of my favorite times at our school to be recognized in the way that we did, and our school's diverse intersections are being uplifted on the regular basis. However, everyone likes to go all out once in a while. So I would like to thank school, faculty, and students taking the time out of our regular school schedule to be with us to celebrate that. And on the topic of our schools, highlighting our school's representation, I'd like to share a few words about the commencement ceremony of our school. For our class of 2017. We actually had a letter to the editor by Vicki Smith, a 1984 graduate of Deering High School, and they wrote a letter talking about kind of the shocking change of demographics that happened from their class graduation versus ours. And they described that their nearly all-white class was intrigued by how our class's roots spread so much further than just the state of Maine, and uplifting that. And I can also speak on behalf of all those attending that a beautiful-minded individual that I'm so proud to call one of my mentors and good friends, Delanta Musanera, gave nothing short of a very moving and inspirational speech. Delonta spoke on the struggle that many students and families have been through in our Portland public school system. Leaving a land you and your family know so well to be met with obstacles you wish no one else to face was something that struck many that Wednesday morning. And however, Delonta's words weren't that of wanting pity or to conjure sorrow, but that of hope and resilience. That without her beautiful mother and siblings, that she wouldn't be standing on that stage receiving her diploma. Delonta is the product of perseverance and got the standing ovation that she and her entire family really deserved. And I believe that she is a very true representation of Deering High School as well as our Portland public school system. Again, the commencement was very beautiful, and I thank you all to those that attended and spoke, including Superintendent Botana. And I'd also like to share a very important line from a letter written by Ellen Alcorn, daughter of Emma Alcorn, as well as a former member and chair of our school board. Pretty sure, yeah. Referring to the graduation ceremony, Miss Alcorn quoted her father-in-law because he emailed her after that commencement, and he said, "On the drive home, I began to realize that what an amazing event I had just witnessed. It was not in New York City, Baltimore, Atlanta, or any other large city, but maybe even those large metropolitan places. Yesterday's event in Portland, Maine was even more unique because of the apparent harmony that doesn't occur in large inner city schools." I believe this quote showcases the privileges, resources, and opportunities that we get here in our school system. Another highly spoken about gold moment is our own Mr. Waltz, the principal of Deering High School, almost shouting out all the families and students in their native languages. And that's one of the so many things that will be missed by Mr. Waltz, for he is retiring. Not only has he been a pillar in our Deering High School community for 7 years, Mr. Waltz has dedicated his career and life, not life, but that's a very long time, sorry, pretty much in his career, is fostering education. And I'll miss his kind words of encouragement, guidance, and impacting the course Deering will take, and for the better, of course. So a thank you to him. And for closing, our assistant principal, Dr. Abdullahi Ahmed, is right now attending the International Schools Network Leaders Training in the other Portland, Oregon, for our school's ISSM program. And we are also saying goodbye to 3 science teachers, Mr. Cobley, who's retiring, Ms. Chomsky, who's moving to Chicago, and Ms. Gorley, who will be working with Ripple Effect now. So we wish them nothing but good fortune in their future endeavors. Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you, Saharla. Report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was a beautiful report. Saharla, thank you. Tonight, I'd like to recognize Casco Bay High School chemistry teacher extraordinaire, Brooke Teller, who was selected last month as Cumberland County's 2017 Teacher of the Year. Brooke is one of the 16 County Teachers of the Year in Maine, all chosen for their exemplary service and dedication to their students. The selection is a great honor in itself. It also puts Brooke and the other members of the group in the running for the Maine Teacher of the Year. And you know, if I had a vote, you definitely have my vote. Brooke is Casco Bay High School's founding chemistry teacher, and she's been with the school for 10 years. Highlights of her work this year include launching a new course called The Chemistry of Mars. I think I know a student in that class, which she co-designed and taught with a University of Southern Maine professor. It made her students fall more in love with science while earning both college and high school credit. Also, through the Air Up There learning expedition she led this fall, she got Casco Bay juniors excited about learning about the chemistry of climate change, and they, in turn, recruited 5th graders to become a new generation of climate change warriors. She also inspires her colleagues in the way she's able to simultaneously meet the needs of English language learners, IEP students, and honors students in her teaching. Casco Bay Principal Derek Pierce has described Brooke as, quote, a splendid educator and an even more splendid human being, end quote. That says it all. Thank you, Brooke, for all that you do for our students, and congratulations on this well-deserved honor. On behalf of Portland Public Schools, I'd like to extend a heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of Evan Gallant, a 2014 Portland High School graduate who passed away on June 8th at the age of 21 after battling cancer for years. Evan never let cancer define him and was an athlete, playing second base for the Bulldogs from 2010 to 2014. Baseball was his passion and his therapy. I'll read just a few lines from his obituary that sum up the life of this extraordinary young man. Quote, although Evan didn't complete college due to his illness, he held his master's in the field of life lessons. Those who have been touched by Evan have been humbled by his strength and courage and comforted by his kind and loving nature. He was truly a happy soul, and he never allowed cancer to change that. Evan touched the lives of many in the Portland Public Schools family who feel honored to have known him. The Portland Public Schools extends its deepest sympathy to Evan's family, including his cousin, Portland High School teacher Rocco Franzilli. The Portland Public Schools extends its condolences to the family of David LaGraff, a longtime teacher in the district who died June 14th at the age of 72. He had retired from teaching, but during his more than 3 decades in education, he taught at several schools, including Lyseth Elementary School and King Middle School. Most recently, he taught at Hall Elementary School in that school's Many Rivers program. He had a passion for acting as well as teaching and wove the two together in the classroom. According to former colleagues, he would sometimes put on a cape and enter the classroom singing the day's lessons to his students. He also had students dance to the Odyssey. After retiring, he devoted himself to acting and improv. David LaGraff was beloved by many Portland Public School students and staff. We're grateful for his many years of dedication and service, and our heartfelt sympathy goes out to his family and former colleagues. Tonight, and you heard this during Saharla's comments, we'd like to express our gratitude to Deering High School Principal Ira Waltz. Ira plans to retire at the end of the school year. He's been an inspirational leader in his 7 years at Deering, leading the school in its successful effort to become an International Studies School Network school. It's part of the district's Nellie Mae Education Foundation-funded high school transformation efforts. Ira has served the Portland Public Schools well over the past 3 decades. Between 1988 and 1998, he worked as a special education teacher at Portland High School and was the principal of the Peaks Island and Reike Elementary Schools, as well as assistant principal at Deering. He then held several administrative positions, including the role of assistant superintendent in both the Scarborough and the Wells School District before returning to Portland. He served as Portland's acting superintendent in the summer of 2012. During graduation ceremonies a couple weeks ago, it was clear that Ira was going to leave an indelible mark on Deering. His calm, tolerant, and welcoming persona is central to Deering's character, as you heard earlier. Many of his graduates showed their appreciation for him during the ceremony and in their public and private remarks. Thank you, Ira, for your dedication and service. We wish you all the best in your retirement, and please know that you will be missed by the Portland Public Schools family. I want to thank the voters of Portland for investing in education by voting on June 13th to approve our budget for the 2017 and 2018 school year. It's been a very challenging budget year, as everybody at this table knows, in which the Portland Public Schools not only had to deal with standard personnel cost increases, but a potential drastic cut in state education aid. The budget is a responsible one with a modest 1.4% increase in spending, and it won the approval of both the Portland Board of Public Education and the City Council. And I'm glad that the voters approved it because it will allow us to continue the level of services to our students that Portland residents and our students deserve and expect. We're very proud to serve the Portland community for their consistent support of our schools. Now let's continue to work on Augusta to ask legislators to support education in Maine by passing a state budget that gets us to the 55% funding level approved by the voters. I also want to thank the students, staff, and families who turned out on Saturday at the Pride Portland Parade, an annual celebration of inclusivity, diversity, and unity. The Portland Public Schools, again, had one of our signature yellow school buses in the parade, and students, staff, families, and supporters either rode in the bus or marched alongside it down Congress and High Street. We got lots of cheers from the crowd, and so we should. We're very proud each year to participate as a district in this event to show that we value and welcome everyone in the Portland Public Schools. As an extra bonus, we found out yesterday that we had been named the Pride Portland Parade's best themed float. Woo! And we have the plaque to show for it, which will be hanging in our office. So congratulations, PPS family, for sharing your pride on Saturday. And that concludes my report. But there is more to my report section. So I'm going to turn it over to Gail to present on the Title I plan. So please, Gail.
Hello, is this on? It sounds on. Great, great. Hi, everyone. This is my annual visit before the board to offer an opportunity to the public for public comment on the application. And so that is the purpose of me being here tonight. In your packet, we sent along just overview of the application to date. We recently received our preliminary allocation, which was good news to finally receive that. And we also recently became aware of the new application process. Given the change in the law, they had to revise the plan. So we are required by law to offer a reasonable opportunity for public comment. We are using the similar process that we've used before, which is to share overview information with the board about the titles and what we generally fund, and those preliminary allocations, which in total across Titles 1, 2, and 3 equal about $3.3 million this year. We have a process for gathering input throughout the year to get input on that plan. This year, it was marked by a pretty comprehensive process initially with a comprehensive plan review, where we were able to get a needs assessment done on district needs. The budget process also gathered information on schools' needs, and those all contribute to how we might use federal funding to support the goals of the district. In addition to that, we convene an NCLB application team with stakeholder members to get a little more specific about how we generally use the funds and to gather their input. And so this process of this announcement is the final step in really opening up that what's in the draft application to public comment, which will be open on the web starting tomorrow through July 12th. And so it's an opportunity for community members and parents to really look at how those funds are used sort of generally and offer their input. We are proud to say that every year we do get a little input to consider as we're building that application. The final application is due August 1st, 2017, and then it gets turned over to the hands of the Department of Ed to review, ask for additional information, and then hopefully approve. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Any questions?
I think one of the questions that I know just came up as a side question, but I think it would be helpful for everybody to understand is that this is not the first time this process has been used, right? So the website and having that open for people to be able to provide feedback, that is something that we've been doing for a number of years.
We actually started doing it about 2 years ago because we wanted to make sure that the public really had an opportunity, had multiple opportunities, some to get involved at the stakeholder level, but also really to post that on the web and use this televised forum to alert people of that opportunity. So, Lori?
How would someone who doesn't have internet access or television be aware? Have we sent something home in writing in student backpacks?
We have not sent something home in student backpacks.
I think in a high poverty district, the assumption that all families have access at home to computers and would be notified electronically, in my experience, is probably not totally realistic.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, I would suggest that we have an alternative means that is not technology dependent for for folks, so they know that it's aware, and how they could submit comments if they had some. And also, I assume we've got information about translation and so on, so that folks could, it's not just in English.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to post it on the web, is it has that ability to be translated. So, but that's a
Okay.
great suggestion. Thanks, Lori.
We can do a robocall with robo email and all of that as well, right?
Absolutely. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and next I would like to invite Longfellow Elementary School, Dr. Terry Young. We congratulated you in absentia at the last meeting for your doctorate, so now
Thank you.
formally you are here as Dr. Terry Young. And Holly Johnson, assistant principal, is also here, and Holly, I'm assuming you're presenting as well, or you guys? Yep. Right.
Okay, good evening. As Javier said, my name is Terry Young. I'm the principal at Longfellow School, and I have just completed my third year at Longfellow. Holly Johnson's with me. She is our half-time assistant principal and half-time literacy specialist. I'd like to start with some demographics, school demographics. Currently, we have 312 students enrolled. We are as high as 330 during the year. Our average class size is 18. Free and reduced lunch students is about 18%. We have 4% of our students are ELL students, and students with disabilities is at 10%. We currently have 58 students registered for kindergarten, which is very strong for us. And so we anticipate about 20 to 21 in a classroom starting in the fall. One thing that's unique about Longfellow is how our teams are structured. At Longfellow, students enter grade 1, and then they loop to grade 2 and stay with their same teacher for a year. Then students are reshuffled and enter 3rd grade, and then they loop with their same teacher until 4th grade. That's a pretty unique structure that has served Longfellow very well over the years. We find that it really allows teachers to develop relationships with our students. For students that may be anxious about school, it takes away a lot of that pressure the next year because they already know their teacher and they're comfortable in their classroom. 5th grade is departmentalized, so students have a homeroom and then they rotate from math, reading, and science, and then they have writing with their homeroom teacher. So when we began building our success plan, we really looked at two data points. We looked at the MEA, which is something that our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students take every year. The past 3 years, it's been a different test each year, so that's been a bit of an adjustment for us. But this is the results from the MEA that we took last year, and we're still waiting for this year's results, which we took the test again this year in March. So a couple of things just to call your attention to. This is for reading. 67% of our students met or exceeded expectations at Longfellow. Compared to the state, it's about 51%. I also pulled out some surrounding communities. Falmouth Elementary School, 80% of their students meet or exceed in reading. And then at Wentworth School, which is an intermediate school in Scarborough, 74% meet or exceed. So that's an area where we've seen some good growth, but we really want to continue to move in the direction that we've been moving in. In mathematics, 57% of our students meet or exceed in math, 39% across the state, 77% meet or exceed in Falmouth, and 59% meet or exceed in Scarborough. In science, we have traditionally had very strong scores. 80% of our students meet or exceed at Longfellow, 61% meet or exceed across the state. In Falmouth, 74% meet or exceed, and in Scarborough, it's the same as Longfellow, 80%. So as we built our goals for the year, one area that we know we want to improve it is our student achievement in mathematics. That's an area that we've been working on and need to continue to work in that area. We use the NWEA as well as the MEA to kind of guide our work for this year. Our other priority areas is we really wanted to work to increase student engagement in mathematics. What we've found, Holly and I have found, just in spending time with students and spending time in classrooms, we see a real strong level of engagement from our students in reading and in writing. But when you spend time in classrooms, we haven't seen the same love of math that we have seen in reading and writing. So we're trying to capture some of that enthusiasm and have that happen in mathematics as well. And then the priority area number 3, which is really something I always have in our goals for our school, is really just our overall school community. How do we continue to build and strengthen our school community? My goal is always to have a school that children want to come to, that teachers want to teach in, that parents want to volunteer in, and that's something that, to me, is always just a work in progress. So this year, we spent a lot of time trying to work in these two areas of math achievement and in student engagement in math. We took our Wednesdays and we dedicated a lot of time to teachers working together in their teams, looking at data, looking at their instruction, and trying to find ways to kind of build enthusiasm for mathematics. Teachers have worked hard at differentiating their instruction, and this is really something that we have to continue to do. Like all classrooms in our school, we have a wide range of learners, and we need to get better at meeting that range. We've worked on giving students more opportunities to, share their mathematical reasoning, both orally and in writing. That's something that we do in reading and writing all the time. So that's something that we've put over into our math instruction, hoping to kind of build some enthusiasm for math. And then this year, students in grades 3 to 5 set goals around their personal growth and how they wanted to grow in mathematics. This is, I apologize, hard to see. I tried to make this chart bigger, but it was pretty challenging. This is some of our successes for the year. A couple of things that, if you can read the chart, is that 6 out of 8 classrooms demonstrated an increase in the percentage of students meeting their projected growth. So the NWA looks at each student as an individual and sets what their projected growth should be. And so we're always trying to look at that number and trying to grow our students' understanding. So in 6 of the 8 classrooms, there was an increase. And some of these classrooms are looping classrooms. So last year, their classroom, 30% of their students in classroom 2 made their growth. This year, 57.9. And it's the same group of children. So I think that's something that is definitely, we consider a success. Another thing that we looked at is 11 of our students who received intervention support in math. 9 of our 11 students that received that support made their projected growth. Another thing that we see as a success is that 9 teachers participated in an online course out of Stanford, which looked at math instruction and talked a lot about teaching children how to persevere and believing that they can learn math. And then another success for Longfellow was a teacher secured a grant from the Portland Education Foundation so that we can do some professional development in math during the summer. So that's another success. So areas for continued improvement, the way we see it, is that we need to continue to have children set goals. We thought this was really powerful, and they were really motivated by improving on how they had done. We need to continue to look at data to better differentiate our instruction. The numbers in red are something that really we need to address. With our third grade students, 29 out of 54 students met their projected growth. Fourth grade, 25 out of 56, and in fifth grade, 14 out of 31. So we're kind of hovering around that 50%, but we really want to push that a bit. When you look at our data, what you tend to see is students that are in that 40 to 60th percentile, they're the ones we're having trouble moving, that kind of plateau. And then our kids that have bigger struggles mathematically and our high achieving students are meeting. So we really need to find ways to better meet the needs of those children. So another area that I mentioned at the beginning was community. How do you build a school community? So one of the things that we do regularly is we have community meetings where the whole school gets together and we celebrate various things. We have the band will play, or the string students will play, or students will do a skit, any number of things. So that's something that we continue to do. Holly and I have spent a lot of time since we've been at Longfellow giving children opportunities to help lead. So we started a green team 2 years ago where students get involved in finding ways to recycle better. They might work with students in the cafeteria and making sure they're putting things in the right box. That's been very successful. We also, this year, we established a civil rights team, which I co-chaired with 2 other teachers, and that has been really an awesome opportunity for students. 2 of the things that we did was we really looked at understanding difference, and then one of the areas the students wanted to focus on was some of the behaviors that they were seeing on the playground, like excluding other kids from playing. So they wrote skits and performed them at community meeting for the other students. A couple of the things that we've done as a school, the green team organized a penny drive for Preble Street, and we raised $812. They also collected toys, broken toys that could be recycled, and then students participated in Jump Rope for Heart and raised $2,500 for the American Heart Association. So that's something that we really believe is important in a school. We also try to model that as a staff. So this year, what we did as a staff is we spent an evening at the Ronald McDonald House in Portland. And so the way this was set up was people could cook, clean at the house, or donate ingredients that would go into the meal. So everybody felt part of this. Everybody contributed. There were about 20 of us at the house that evening. And it was a great event. It was something that the teachers are still talking about, and we plan to do next year as well. So, and that was the picture from the first teacher day last year. So I'm happy to take any questions that anybody might have. Yes?
You mentioned that you wanted to measure student contentment, more or less, with the community.
Yep.
What are some ways that you've taken those measurements? And have you done surveys of the students?
I think one way we do that is, we just talk to them a lot and to kind of feel how they're feeling about school. We also look at the parent survey that that the parents fill out. We don't have the results for this year yet, but we've looked at that in the past. And they do have culture surveys for students. I think they're usually grades 3, 4, and 5, which is something we certainly could look at. There's an Aspiration Survey where they ask students, things like, does your principal know your name? Are you happy to come to school each day? Do you enjoy what you're learning? So things like that are certainly something we could try.
Yeah,
We
Great
get
idea.
positive feedback from parents and students about how things are going, and I think that it's a nice size. The school is a nice size for us to really know the students and have a handle on how things are going. So. And students that age love to help. I mean, students any age, but once you give them opportunities to support their school or other people, they really enjoy that. So it's been very positive.
I would also just like to point out that, as you know, one of our comprehensive plan goals is our whole student goal, and that does focus on social emotional learning and the development of students as sort of members of the community. And so we are, as part of that, trying to find out what are the right metrics to measure and report on a regular basis about students and their level of development as as more than a budding mathematician or reader. So,
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Dr. Young. And that does conclude my report.
Okay. Moving on to report of the secretary. Consideration and action to approve the meeting minutes of June 6, 2017. Is there a motion? Ms. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. Are there any questions on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, any board discussion? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of June 6, 2017, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. And moving on to report of the committees. Curriculum, Ms. Morioni is not here. I don't see that she designated anybody to speak on her behalf, so we'll wait until next time for that one. Operations, Ms. Davis.
The Operations Committee met this week?
A week ago today,
A week ago today.
on the 13th.
On the 13th. And talked about some of the stuff that you'll see on tonight's agenda, the school bus conduct policy, and some things that you'll hear more about in August regarding food and some other issues. Our next meeting is scheduled for August 8th, so we have a bit of a break over July, but we'll be back at it on the 8th of August and working with and around the kind of grappling with the Sebago Technics facilities assessment as probably being one of the major things that we'll do, that, as the committee knows and as the board knows, identifies a lot of facilities needs, certainly more in terms of a dollar figure than we can probably accommodate. And so we're going to have to figure out how we're going to do that so that we keep all our buildings in good shape. So we'll have a break and then back hard at work in August.
And on the agenda tonight is formal referral of the Sebago,
Of that Sebago Technics, yep.
Committee to the operations committee to, as Ms. Davis described it, grapple with how to operationalize that. So.
Thank you. Moving on to finance, Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Finance Committee met on Tuesday, right before the Operations Committee. I think it's a long night. Double meeting for you. We, on the agenda, we talked about the FY17 financials through May, all of which looked really great. There was no concern at all, and in fact, some good stuff. We discussed our plans for high school devices and started a conversation about, on the committee level, about the FY 17-18 budget process, giving feedback on the budget itself and the process. And we'll be happy, I think, to have a larger conversation as a board in August. I think at the first meeting in August, I'm not sure.
I don't think we have it scheduled, but it is our plan to do a workshop on that, and, prior to that, do a survey of the board around sort of thoughts about the current process, as well as suggestions for how to move the specific initiatives forward in the coming year in anticipation of the budget.
Great, thank you. And then the next meeting is August 8th at 7:30 in central office, where I believe we're going to be starting the multi-year budgeting process. Thank you.
Thank you. Policy, Legislative, and Public Affairs, Ms. Seeliger.
So we had scheduled a meeting for this evening at 6 to go over our transgender policy that we've been working hard on, but we had an executive session tonight at the same time. So we will be rescheduling that probably in August. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other committee and/or member concerns? Seeing none, we'll move into consent items. Would the superintendent please read the items into consent?
Yes, Madam Chair. Casco Bay High School received a donation of pizza for their prom from Otto's Pizza of Portland. So thank you very much to Otto's for their donation. And Reiki Elementary School received a cash donation for their school pantry and for the Bayside Learning Community Pantry for the school year 2017-18 from the Portland Provident Association of Yarmouth. So thank you to the Portland Provident Association for those donations. And that's it.
Moving into old business, we have a number of items tonight. First, we have consideration and action to authorize the board chair and superintendent to approve the submission of the district technology plan. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. And would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
Yes, as you know, this has been with the board now for almost a month. We had a workshop session on this back in early May, and then, we are now at the point of the second read and looking for approval of the technology plan. Mike Derry is here to answer any questions you might have. I also want to let the board know that as these things happen, we submitted our application to the Department of Ed for sort of a pre-approval feedback session, and found out today that they approved it prior to your formal approval, which was a surprise. I guess it's a pleasant one, and it will be particularly pleasant if you act to approve it. Otherwise, it will be a somewhat embarrassing situation. But I do believe that this plan advances our work. I think the presentation that we had a couple weeks ago with Mike and Sharon Prey and Cindy sort of reviewing the work that had been done in preparation of that submission, as well as what it means for us going forward, shows that we're on the right track with this. So we're asking for your approval of the plan.
Are there any questions on the motion? Ms. Thompson?
So I didn't have any substantial changes, but it sounds like it's a moot point. Because this says to approve the submission, and it's already been submitted and approved, so it's
So it
probably a
went
moot
in
point
as
for me
a-
to say much of anything, I
Well,
guess.
it went in as they had a pre-approval process where we could send it in and get feedback, and I'm not 100% sure, Mike, I don't think you're 100% sure how this actually turned into a formal approval, because it was a pre-approval.
3 o'clock today, it was just due to the revamping of the technology plan requirements by the state as of last year.
Do you want to come up to the mic? Mike?
Think it's on.
Yeah, it's on.
Due to the revamping of all the requirements from the previous years, I reached out to the new representative at the state and said, would you mind just giving our draft an overview and some feedback? And he said, yeah, it looks great. And that was prior to the first read, because I wanted to say, you know what, we've had it kind of the draft approved, to present that to you. And then today, I just got a letter from him. It's just like, yeah, it's been approved completely. So there was no, I did not know he was doing that.
So I guess for me, there was just some minor things that I wanted to ask about. One is a changing committee to board for date approved by school board. But throughout the plan, it refers to the Director of Technology, and Michael's, and I don't know if that's referring to Michael or not, but it says District Technology Coordinator. So the terminology for positions in the document aren't consistent, so I don't know whether or not his title is District Technology Coordinator or
His
Technology
title is
Director.
Director of Technology.
Director of Technology, yeah.
Okay. So that's fine then. And I just had the other question about the Chief Academic Officer as well, where that has been, where this is a multi-year plan, where that title has been changed as well. I didn't know whether or not, that needed to be done, but I guess not.
And again, we use, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning / Chief Academic Officer.
Okay, okay. And then I had a question about the it says possible technology integration specialist to be hired. Was that one of the positions that we were able to keep? I know that okay. All right. So I saw that in there, and I was hoping it was something we were able to keep, but, okay, so we're not hiring that. Okay. That was my other question.
But again, it's a multi-year plan, so it's not
Hopefully
out
next year.
of scope for us to be able to do that going forward. And so it's incorporated into the plan in the hope that we will eventually be able to do that.
Beautiful. Can I, do you mind? I just have two more questions, I think. So that answers that question. You did that, not that. And then the only other correction was on page 25, it talks about the policy committee, and it makes a statement that the policy committee is comprised of board members, administrators, and parents. And we always welcome the community and parents, but in policy, the policy committee is comprised of board members and central office team members. So again, just terminology-wise there, because it's not, but semantics, I guess. So that was it.
And we'll make those changes and file that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of authorizing the board chair and superintendent to approve the submission of the district technology plan, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student in the affirmative. Consideration and action to authorize the board chair and superintendent to sign an MOU with the Portland Education Foundation. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Vendel. And would the superintendent like to speak to this motion?
Sure. Again, as with the technology plan, we had a presentation to the board on the changes to the Memorandum of Understanding, as well as providing an update on the work of the Portland Education Foundation over the past 2 years. This is the renewal of the 2-year agreement between the district and PEF, and it continues the strong relationship between Portland Public Schools and the Portland Education Foundation. Kate Snyder is here if you have any questions about it, but at this time, we're asking for approval of the Memorandum of Understanding with modifications.
Are there any questions on the motion?
Not a question, but at the appropriate time when we get to board discussion.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no questions, is there any public comment? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Ms. Thompson?
Thank you. Reading through this, it's, as usual, great work. And I'm very proud that we have the Portland Education Foundation with us. I did have a couple quick questions, and I spoke with the executive director, Kate Snyder, today about a couple of them, and ran some terminology by her to make 2 slight amendments. The first amendment that I'd like to make is under 2.0, where it says Portland Education Foundation support of and obligations to Portland Public Schools. On number 2, there was a deletion there of any transfer of assets between the district and foundation will be formalized in an additional protocol to assure, among other things, that both observe any restrictions governing the use or disposition of the assets. And it was replaced with a summary report of gifts received. And in my conversation with Ms. Snyder, the deletion of that, they submit an annual 990 with the IRS. And so in talking with Ms. Snyder, I ran by her of having that say, the foundation shall annually provide the superintendent and board of public education with the annual 990 as filed with the IRS, because that gives us all of the assets and information, et cetera. And she seemed to be fine with that change. And it just, opposed to a summary report, it gives us the actual detail that was submitted to the IRS. So that is one amendment I'd like to make.
Okay, let's do one at a time.
Yep.
So we'll take that as an amendment by Ms. Thompson. Is there a second to the amendment? Ms. Seeliger? And would you like Ms. Snyder to speak to that?
I don't know if she wants to, but certainly
would you
she
like
can
to?
nod her head if she wants to, or.
Are you okay, Kate?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Do you want me to?
Yeah?
The 990 is a form that's required of all nonprofits that bring in over a certain dollar amount, and so it's a public document. So you can require it within this MOU, and I'm happy to provide it. You can also know that it's available on GuideStar, and it's a publicly available document.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the amendment? Seeing none, any board discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, I would ask Ms. Thompson to read the amended language and then call for
Sure.
a vote.
The foundation shall annually provide the superintendent and board of public education with the annual 990 as filed with the IRS.
Okay. All those in favor of the amended language, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student in the affirmative. Now we're back to the main motion.
And I have
Go
one
ahead.
final. On number 4, it said the foundation agrees before accepting gifts with any restrictive terms and condition or gifts of real estate or equipment to confer with the superintendent, and what was deleted from there is obtain written district approval. And in my discussion with Ms. Snyder and from historical perspective and talking out where we've been over the years, and with this particular superintendent, we're not letting him leave, but we have had quite a bit of turn of staff. And so for me, conferring is a lot different than written. And I think we've learned over the years that a verbal conversation changes depending on who's having it and what was he said, she said. So in talking to Kate, I asked that the change go back in there, they obtain the written district approval. The concern was if the superintendent wasn't available and something came about, would this be a limitation by putting it back in? And we discussed that, and if the superintendent is available, then there's a designee always, and this last minute thing. So I guess it was just more of a conversation the superintendent and Ms. Snyder had. But for me, I'm not comfortable with conferring versus written, because I would like to have a written trail of any kind of gifts that have restrictive terms and conditions put on them. Thank you. So it's just to put back in what was taken out.
Okay.
That one little.
Okay, so that's an amendment by Ms. Thompson. Is there a second? Ms. Hudson-Mueller? Are there any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the amendment? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. And Ms. Thompson, if you wouldn't mind just reading the amendment language again.
Sure. It just goes back to the original, which is the foundation agrees before accepting gifts with any restrictive terms and conditions or gifts of real estate or equipment to obtain written district approval. And I think, I don't know if with, and found, I don't know where it ended and started on that. So obtain written district approval and then and foundation, so it's not going to make sense here. Approval and foundation. So I'm not sure where the words left off, but it's just inserting back in what was taken out. So it just doesn't make sense to me now, but putting those words back in, it doesn't flow, but Ms. Snyder, I don't know if you have. The foundation agrees before accepting gifts with any restrictive terms and conditions or gifts of real estate or equipment, comma, to obtain written district approval, comma, and foundation and district both agree. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So it's just putting it back to where it was. Sorry, didn't mean to make it difficult. I was just trying to figure it out language-wise. There's commas in there, so I didn't pause.
Does everyone understand? Okay. So I would call for a vote. Everyone in favor of accepting that amended language, please indicate. That's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. And so we're back to the main motion. Any more board discussion? Seeing none, I would call for a vote. All those in favor of authorizing the board chair and superintendent to sign an MOU with the Portland Board of Education Foundation as amended, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Consideration and action to sanction a cooperative wrestling team with South Portland School Department. Is there a motion? Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Vendel. And would the superintendent or the?
I'm going to refer it to the
Crawford.
assistant superintendent.
Thank you very much. This is a wonderful opportunity to move the long-term collaboration between the South Portland schools and the Portland Public Schools, specifically South Portland High School and Portland High School, regarding wrestling. The MPA recently adopted policy changes that allow for the formation of cooperative teams for all team sports. And so we would look forward to entering into this collaboration with South Portland in order to allow, at this time it appears, 4 South Portland wrestlers to join the Portland High School wrestling team. South Portland has already taken action. The Board of Education in South Portland has taken action to approve. Obviously, we're asking for your support this evening so that we can not only continue this wonderful opportunity for wrestlers in Greater Portland, but to deepen it.
Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Ms. Thompson?
No board discussion per se. I just want to recognize that the coach of the wrestling team is here, Mr. David Elowich. I think they're state champions. Not yet. Not yet, okay. Just want to recognize you in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of sanctioning a cooperative wrestling team with South Portland School Department, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative.
Before we move on from that, I also want to recognize that Al Kirk, the current coach of the wrestling team at Deering High School, is retiring at the end of this year, and he has been with the program for 39 years and has had a distinguished career, and so we did not recognize him otherwise, but Coach pointed that out to me, and so I just want to make sure that we acknowledge Coach Kirk's retirement.
Consideration and action to authorize the board chair and superintendent to sign an MOU with the Nellie Mae Foundation. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. Would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
Sure. As you know, again, this is another one where we've had a significant presentation for the board on the work that's happened under the Nellie Mae grant for the past 5 years. And as we enter the 6th and final year of our relationship with Nellie Mae around high school transformation, this is the memorandum of understanding that that formalizes that relationship going into the final year. We had a presentation, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, on the Nellie Mae, and we're prepared to answer any questions that you might have about the memorandum of understanding.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of authorizing the board chair and superintendent to sign an MOU with the Nellie Mae Foundation, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative.
Neither one of us got who moved and who seconded.
Oh, it was
I seconded.
Ms. Davis and Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
Thank you. I apologize.
It's okay.
I wrote it down, so.
Okay. Consideration and action to revise policy JICI Athletic and Co-Curricular Activities Code of Conduct for middle and high school students. Is there a motion? Ms. Hatzenbuehler, seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you. Would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
Yes, and Fred Barlow is here if there are any specific questions about it. This is a policy that has been worked on in the Operations Committee. You heard.
Nope,
We're on.
This is athletics.
athletic and co-curricular.
Sorry. Totally wrong. Ms. Prey is here to speak on that one. We had a lot of policies today, guys, okay?
So this is policy JICI, which is the policy that the Curriculum Ed and Planning Committee has been working on all year long. What we tried to do is we tried to change the language, revise the language so that it's in keeping with the new graduation requirements and the units of proficiency language. Also, one of the things that the ADs and the principals really wanted to take a look at and revise was the self-reporting section. They completely are eliminating that piece, and they no longer have disciplinary action for self-reporting. So that whole column, if you look on the previous policy or the current policy and the revised policy, that whole section on the right is gone, as well as the number of games and activities that students will miss. Rather than having numbers of activities that students will miss, if they're disciplined for various actions in the community or at school or being suspended from school, we now have a graph with a chart of percentages, because each of our activities and all of our athletic events are different based upon whether it's football or baseball. There may be more games in a month for one particular activity than others. So those are the only changes for JICI. Did you want me to address the other one?
I think we should probably come back
Okay.
to that at
All right.
appropriate time.
Are there any questions on Ms. Thompson?
Thank you, don't go far. So I have a few questions. Under academic eligibility, on number 2, letter A, it says Portland and Casco Bay High School students must take and pass 5 academic classes per semester. And I think from what I'm questioning about this is, for on personal, is having a child that just graduated. She took 5 classes, but they were 2 of them were teacher assistants and 2 classes were at USM. And so I'm wondering, how are you factoring in those students that don't, especially senior year, don't need 5 classes here, but we're not counting college classes in honor roll or anything else? So how is that factored in here?
I was told by the principals and the ADs that they do count the college classes as one of the 5 courses.
Okay, just not for honor roll. Okay. Okie dokie. Then the other question I have is on academic ineligibility process. It says, talks about the academic probation period, as a full 7 calendar days. And then it was changed from 7 calendar days in another part of the policy. And so I'm just wondering, consistency-wise, and at the moment,
So
of course.
what page are you on?
I'm under where it says, they're not numbered, so it's hard to tell you a page number. But it's, I guess, under academic eligibility, letter A, number 8, the second paragraph. because when you go to level 1, academic ineligibility is a full 7 calendar days there. We changed that in the language on B, but we kept it on the previous page, so I was just curious on that.
So where's the second one?
If you flip it over, letter B under level 1, it talks about if a student continues to be eligible at the end of the 3-week, 7 calendar day, blah, blah. That was lined out there, but we kept it under the academic probation on the front page, so we did away with it.
But we did away with more than that. I mean, it's just, we did away with that sentence, and I don't recall the rationale for getting rid of that sentence, but it wasn't to indicate anything other than.
Well, no, but we got rid of the 7
7
calendar
day.
day, but we kept it on the, what I'm saying is we
Right,
kept it.
I know.
Okay.
What I'm saying is it wasn't removed there because we don't think that the 7 calendar day is null and void and shouldn't be used. It was because that sentence was unnecessary.
Okay. And then my other question is, under level 1 academic ineligibility is a full 7 calendar days. On B, it talks about during level 1 academic ineligibility, the student cannot participate in any practice games, scrimmages, competitions, tournaments, exhibition games, and/or other team club activities, and the student will not be allowed to travel with the team. So they're not allowed here to participate because of academics, but when I come over to drug, alcohol, and tobacco consequences on the first offense, they may continue to participate, and they may get to go to 25% of their games, but for academics, you're done. But then over here, for drug and alcohol and tobacco, you're not done. So I'm kind of concerned that for me, drug and alcohol and academics, obviously, are all of the above important, and so the consequences don't seem to not equal, but it just seems to me really to be off to say you didn't get your grades, so you can't go to practice, you can't do this, you can't do that. But then over here, if you have drug and alcohol, tobacco violation, you can go, but just 25%. But you don't have to miss a practice either, and you continue to practice. To me, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm just kind of looking to you for clarification. And then when we get to second offense, like you said, you move up to 50%. But
Okay,
again,
you're ineligible for 25%. You don't participate in 25%.
right. But it says, right, I get
I
that.
think the issue, if I understand it, is that you're saying that the way that the policy is written, it seems that if you are academically ineligible, you're done. But if you do all of
Consequences
these
are
other
more.
things, that are also, disciplinary problems, that you are, not done, you're just penalized somewhat. And I don't know if you guys, as a committee, discussed that. I don't recall this conversation. I don't know what but it sort of resonates with me that it's something that we should be explicit about. Yes, we think that academics are so important that if you're ineligible, you're done, or, oops, that's not what we meant. And I think that that's what, I'm not clear, and I'm looking to you, Sharon. I don't know if you know.
We did not raise that issue at all. Do
So I
you
guess-
recall that? I'm going to ask Ms. Crocker, since she participated in the last co-curricular meeting.
That was not a part of that meeting.
No, we didn't discuss that at all.
So I guess I would ask then, in that light of that, if we could postpone the vote on this and so it has some clarification, because for me, academics, and to your point of how you spelled it out very eloquently, and then for second offense of drug and alcohol, you get to just miss 50%, but you continue. It's just, to me, it doesn't make sense. So I find it to be very severe for drug and alcohol and not so much tobacco, but whatever.
About the other way around. Like,
The other way around,
it's-
very
yeah,
severe
it's
for
very
academics.
severe for academics and not as
Yeah.
severe for,
Not as severe, yes, thank you. So I guess I would ask that this be postponed to our meeting in August for a vote.
Okay, so that's a motion to table to our motion in August. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Eder. And we'll move to, I don't know if we do discussion.
Just tabled to the first meeting in August to allow the committee to go back and take a look at it.
So I think just from a logistics standpoint, the committee will not meet prior to the
Okay.
first August meeting, so I think it's
So
just going to push
after
us
that.
off into a little bit later.
Okay.
I don't remember what the implications are of that. I think that there were some implications for, that we were in a hurry to get this resolved. So, I mean, I think alternately, that a motion to sort of reconcile those two so that it's, it's consistent, or if there's a reason that we don't understand, the people that are here, but the athletic directors or the principals, want it explicitly to be that way for some reason that is, sound but is unknown to us. I think if we were charged with going back and changing the policy to reflect that, we could then come back, and we could sort of go back and forth with committee members, make sure that it's sound to the committee, and not actually have a meeting. But I think that there are implications in terms of publishing the student handbook and the student athlete handbook that I.
And beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll have to not vote then, because I don't feel comfortable just because of the season that we're going to say we're starting out here in a very, precarious way, and I don't agree with this at all. I think that.
And I think we agree that it needs to
So,
be revisited.
Why don't we just keep the
think that-
policy that we have on the books currently to start, if they need something, start it with what we got, and then have this go back to the committee, and then make the changes and bring it forward again. And just for, if you have to have it out there and have something on the books, we already have a code of conduct for middle and high school students. Let it stand for now until we can rectify and make it equal. I'm not comfortable of approving a policy and then saying we'll come back to it later, just so we can put it in a handbook. I'm not comfortable with that.
So I guess I'll ask Sharon, I know that this started as just a, I don't want to say an exercise, but it really started as, let's change the language that's affected by the changes to the graduation by proficiency. And I think it started there, and then somewhere along the line it grew, and you did all of these other things. What was the genesis of that? Was that the athletic directors? Was that the principals? Was that the committee? What?
It was the athletic directors that really, and the principals, together, they were looking at the discipline portion of the policy, and they felt that that really needed major overhauling. The self-reporting piece was just not working for them, the way that, of the intent. So they wanted to completely get rid of that. And then they started talking about, when you say you're going to miss 2 weeks or 1 month of an activity, one particular sport or activity might be, hit a lot harder than others. So then they started talking about percentages. So it just turned into a much larger exercise than we had anticipated originally, so.
Is there a reason we can't refer back to the current policy on the books?
I think you just heard that the principals and athletic directors, are, have concerns about the way that policy actually plays out. So I think that that's why we've proposed these changes. I'm also, I hear you about the academic versus the other infractions, and being, one being weighted super heavily against the other. So I get that, and I suspect that it was not by design, that it's probably been that way all along, and we never really sort of reflected on it. And so I think that's why it's helpful to review policies on a regular basis. So, I think we can move forward with the policy as it currently is, and then make those changes for the following school year. I don't see any other way to do that. It doesn't seem that moving forward with a policy that we know has a problem in terms of the academic versus the non-academic, the alcohol and tobacco violations, I think that we recognize that we need to reconcile that. And if you're not comfortable sort of saying, go fix it and bring it back, then I guess we move forward with a policy that we also know is problematic.
I'm fine with, I understand the overhaul needs to happen, but we have a policy that stands, and to approve a policy and say come back later and then we'll reapprove it, it's not processed. So I hear what you're saying, but again, would like us to keep what we have, let the work be done, bring it back to the board, and do the process accurately and correctly. That's all. Thank you.
So we have it looks like we have board members that want to weigh in. Procedurally, we have a motion on the floor to table. I think we need to vote on that first.
Yeah, you
What's
need
that?
a vote, and you probably need to hear from the board members
Okay,
on
so we can either vote on the tabling motion, or the tabling motion could be withdrawn to allow for discussion.
I think you can discuss the
Okay.
tabling motion.
Or we can, okay.
You can discuss the tabling motion, but typically, there's not a vote per se. I don't think on a table, I have to look at Robert's rules, but when it's tabled, it's tabled, but I don't remember the exact.
Okay. Okay, so then on tabling, I have Lori and then Jenna. And then Steph.
I think looking at this as well, that there's some things that kind of stick out to me as well, and it may be that some of the work that happened in the committee really needs to come to us in a workshop, so I'm in favor of tabling it and getting a little more. I'm concerned with some of the same things that Sarah is. I remember when we put the self-reporting in, that was, I think, a very conscious decision to do that, so before I vote to take it out, I don't know enough to know. I need to hear why it's not working and how it's not working. So I would support that we table it, send it back to the committee for some more work, and probably bring it to the board with a workshop or some more information so that we really can have the benefit of the thinking in order to make an informed decision. And meanwhile, we just continue using the same policy we've got, rather than train people in a whole new policy that could indeed go away or be changed again.
Ms. Mendel and then Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
So as somebody who was on this committee, this issue had never been brought up, and this had been actually something that had been talked about for pretty much since January or December. So I think that the solution actually probably isn't to bring it back to our committee, but to bring it to the full board, because obviously there are issues that just didn't fly through our radar. And, you know, we talked a lot about the discipline restrictions around the tobacco and alcohol use, but we didn't even, I think that when I recollect those discussions, I prioritize making sure that students are getting, that are passing the courses, that are attending classes, that they're actually, engaged in school activities, and thinking about, their standing as an athlete. So that was, my approach. But I think if the board needs a workshop, then the board needs a workshop. I would rather not send it back to this committee.
Ms. Hatzenbuehler.
Thank you. I guess I was just unsure if we wanted to call the discrepancy between the consequences a problem, because I'm not sure that it is. I think we just don't know. And so that's where I am with this, is that I don't want to assume that there's a problem when we just don't know. It could be that there's rationale around it that's just not readily available to us now. So I think that, I don't know if it needs whole, I'm with Jenna, or my colleague, Ms. Bendel, that I don't know that it needs like full, refurbishing and going back to committee, but rather just a little bit of investigation and some discussion. Unless those questions can be answered here, which I don't believe that they can.
Yeah, and that's, I think, my concern, and I apologize. I don't think that, I personally had not sort of realized that the policy as written sort of weighted the academic non-eligibility as a sort of ruling you out, because I know from the part of the work around this policy that I tracked, it was very much, as Ms. Vendil pointed out, about trying to figure out a way to sort of, even if a kid made a mistake, they would still have a way of, sort of, if they came around, if they did the things that were required, that they would still be able to participate. And so there was, a lot of work done to have a level of circumstances that would get you off the team and how to get back on the team. So I think that, sort of in the spirit of the work that was done, it wasn't if you're academically ineligible, you're done. And then, if you're academically eligible and you have a drug infraction or a alcohol infraction, then we're going to work with you. I don't think that that was the intent of the committee, so I don't know, Sharon, if you've got anything to add to that.
I just thought that when you look at the top where it says drug, alcohol, tobacco violations, in parentheses, it says additional consequences beyond those described. So possibly this is in addition to the consequences aligned with academics. I don't know. So that's the only thing I can think of. But I cannot answer the question.
Right. So I support the tabling. I don't know that it needs to go all the way back to committee.
I think what I'm taking away is to sort of, to get our ducks in a row and bring it back in a workshop, and then, bring it back through the committee process, so, okay?
So I'll change the table to exactly what he just said.
Okay,
Whatever that
Thank you.
was.
and I will
And it
call-
does need a majority vote, so I just looked it up for you. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. And then I would call for a vote on the tabling motion. All those in favor? Are we clear on what we're voting on? I'm seeing.
No, I didn't withdraw it. I had said at first to table it, to send it back to curriculum, and now to Javier's point, that it's been there, so we might as well discuss it in a workshop and then have our questions answered and then bring it forward for a vote.
Yeah.
So I'm not withdrawing it, I'm just changing who it goes to.
We're tabling it to a further motion, or to a further meeting of the board.
Right.
Okay. All those in favor? 6, and the student. All those opposed? Oops.
You can't vote twice, Anna.
Ms. Bendel is opposed. Thank you. Okay. Consideration and action to revise policy IHBGA, homeschooling participation in school programs. Is there a motion? Ms. Vendel, seconded by,
I did not.
oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. Will the superintendent speak to this motion?
Again, I'll turn it over to Ms. Prey to
So
speak.
this one's an easy one. I think.
Don't jinx it.
Okay. So basically, this one was cross-referenced in JICI. So all we did on, as you can see by your packets, all we did was change some language and add some language for proficiency-based diploma language.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of revising policy IHBGA, homeschooling participation in school programs, please indicate. That's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. Consideration and action to receive the facilities assessment report and refer to the Operations Committee for review and incorporation into its work on the CIP plan. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. And would the superintendent like to speak to this motion?
Yeah, very briefly, we had a workshop, an extensive workshop on the facilities assessment report at the last board meeting, and as part of framing that presentation, we had discussed that we would be bringing it as a result of the board now being in possession of the report and understanding its contents. We're asking you to refer it to the appropriate committee for continued action and the work of the Operations Committee.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, Is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of receiving the Facilities Assessment Report and referring to the Operations Committee for review and incorporation into its work on the CIP plan, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. All right, that takes care of old business. New business, we have consideration and action to authorize the superintendent or designee to continue the hiring process on June 21st, 2017 through August 1st, 2017 for all budgeted vacancies without seeking prior board approval to advertise. Is there a motion, Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Davis? Will the superintendent speak to the motion?
This is a standard annual request because the board does not meet during the month of July, so this gives us the ability to continue to move forward with hiring for budgeted positions without coming to the board for approval.
Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, any board discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of authorizing the superintendent or designee to continue the hiring process on June 21st, 2017 through August 1st, 2017 for all budgeted vacancies without seeking prior board approval to advertise, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Consideration and action to approve a contract agreement between the Portland Board of Public Education and the Portland Administrators Association for July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2020. Is there a motion? Ms. Vendel, seconded by Ms. Davis. And would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
Yes, this is asking the board for approval of the agreement between the Principals and Administrators Association and the board. This is a 3-year agreement that has been negotiated between the board negotiating team and the Principals Association team. We began our negotiations process in April, and it was extremely productive engagement, as evidenced by the fact that in a couple of months we were able to come to a significant agreement and resolution. The agreement is for 3 years. It was, there were lots of give and take, and I think both parties feel comfortable that the outcome is a positive one for the district and for the employee group as well. So we're asking for your approval of the contract.
Are there any questions on the motion? Ms. Thompson?
I'm just wondering if there's some highlights that we could just call out, or?
Yeah, except that I don't have my highlight memo. I thought it was in here and it's not, so I'm, Barb, do you by any chance have that? Thank God.
Backup plan.
Sure.
Nice. Merci.
Awesome. So, in terms of the contract, I think, let me start with the financials. The agreement sets up a step increase and a 1.5% cost of living increase for the first 2 years of the contract, and then a step increase with no cost of living adjustment in the third year of the contract. The sort of highlights in terms of articles, it retains the Director of Adult Education as a member of the bargaining unit. It levels the sick bank practice for this unit with all of our other units, including incorporation of FMLA as the legal standard. It creates a sort of some adjustments around the rollover of accrued vacation time for members of the unit that was difficult to manage prior. It clarifies travel expenses. There is language in the contract clarifying reduction in force for members of the unit that was an item of significant discussion, and sort of the highlight of that is it retains the performance as the first level of decision-making in the reduction in force process, and then implements more traditional things such as experience, training, and certification, as well as seniority as the next steps in the process. It clarifies work year, retains the year-round status for members of the unit, and other sort of minor changes in that area. Clarifies flexible benefits. That was an item that was left sort of to be negotiated at the last contract, to be worked through, and it never happened over the course of the contract, but we now have a resolution around the flexible benefits package that's available to members of the unit. It incorporates the items that used to be in notes to the salary schedule. It creates a section in the contract, a chapter in the contract that deals with the salary schedule, and so it formalizes that. It provides a temporary administrative personnel vacancy, giving assistant principals who are asked to cover for principals for a prolonged period of time additional compensation for taking on those additional responsibilities. And it formalizes some changes in continuing education for the unit that's consistent with what we have with some of our other units. And I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Any other questions on the motion? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none.
I forgot to add that this was ratified unanimously by the unit at their ratification vote last week, so.
Thank you. Is there any board discussion? Ms. Vendel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was the board member who participated on the negotiations team. And I have to say, as somebody who has been a part of this process before, I felt that the way that we went about approaching this work with and this type of bargaining, where we met and discussed mutual interests, where we had an opportunity to identify issues, both from the employer and the employee standpoint, and provided dinner for everyone to meet because we were meeting for long hours. It was one of the best practices processes I've participated in, and having been a part of that, given the status of the previous collective bargaining experiences that this board has gone through, I have to say this was it was a breath of fresh air, and my hope is that this would be something that we would be able to embrace and continue, since we have leadership that has experience in this work, and we have seasoned board members who've been a part of this process now for a while. So with that, I urge you to support this contract. Thank you.
Any other board discussion? Well, I would just say that I am very happy to support this tonight. I want to give some gravity to the role that our administrators play in this organization, and I think the full board feels that way. We're happy to support a contract for these. So with that, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the contract agreement between the Portland Board of Public Education and the Portland Administrators Association beginning July 1, 2017 to June 30th, 2020, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Consideration and action to authorize the board chair and superintendent to sign a lease agreement to purchase Chromebooks for a term of 3 years from June 30th, 2017 to July 1, 2019, not to exceed $668,840. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Mendel. Will the superintendent like to speak to this?
Yeah, and I will ask staff to help with this as well, sort of to frame it. As you know, part of the board's work over the course of the last year was to vet and advise and ultimately to support the move towards the purchase of Chromebooks to replace our one-to-one iPads at the high school level. And that, as you know, wound up being a budget request that we brought forward as part of our original budget, and it survived several of the budget rounds, but in the end, we weren't able to, it was gone. But through the good offices of our technology director, Mike Derry, and finance officer, Alicia Gardner, we're back with a plan. And we actually brought the plan with the details to the Finance Committee at the last Finance Committee meeting last week. The Finance Committee reviewed it, felt it would be worthwhile to bring the full plan back to the board prior to the amendment. So I'm going to ask Alicia and Mike. I think, Alicia, you're carrying the heavy load on this because technically this is the same thing that we propose to do and that the board understands. So it's the Chromebooks with the insurance. It's significantly less money than what was originally presented, because what was originally presented included teacher replacement laptops, which is not a part of this package. So this is strictly the one-to-one for the students. And so it's financed differently, and that's what Alicia is here to explain. So thank you.
Very much. So we have looked for quotes for these devices, and the devices are going to be $640,000. And as we discussed earlier, it was going to be a 3-year payment of $330,000, which included teacher devices. So this $640,000, we went to Acer directly, that's the brand of the Chromebook that we're going to be purchasing, and they offered us a financing deal. And I looked at it and said to Mike, I think we can do a little bit better than that. So we went out and solicited bids for lease purchase companies, and we heard from Acer gave us another quote. Androscoggin Bank gave us a quote, and Gorham Leasing gave us a quote. And I've worked with both Gorham and Androscoggin in the past, and they're great companies to work with. And ultimately, I am recommending that we go with Androscoggin Bank for a 3.02% lease purchase agreement. They're allowing us to fund this in a way that would allow us to make our first payment in this fiscal year. The funding is going to be available through a reimbursement in our E-rate that we have expended in our CIP funds. So it's a $164,000 credit that we have in our current fiscal year. So we will really only have about $3,000 that we will be contributing in our operating budget in the current year. And they're allowing us to skip to FY19 for our next payment. So we will have a 6/30/17 date and a 7/1/18 date. So as we know, we do not have this in our FY18 budget, but it will skip to the next 3 budgets. The total is $167,210. And I said to the Finance Committee that I would go and look at our long-term debt picture to see, how that's going to work out. And if we do include this next year for our FY19 budget, we're still looking at about a $250,000 reduction in debt service, assuming that we're not taking on new projects and that sort of thing. It's sort of the picture that we're looking at right now. And going forward in the future, if we continue to borrow for CIP at the rate that we've been, it'll be about a $200,000 increase a year thereafter. So, and that's really all about the CIP. So this will have little to no effect on our debt picture going forward. So I felt comfortable.
What's the actual impact of this on the debt picture?
So this is $167 per year for It's a 3-year term, but there are 4 payments. So this will be done in July of 2020. Anyone have any questions?
Ms. Thompson?
I do have a question. In our executive summary on the second page, it says this proposal funds a purchase of 2,500 Chromebook devices, blah, 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 for $640,000. And it says the purchase would be broken out over a 4-year lease, beginning 6/30/2017 and ending 7/1/2020. The fiscal impact is $668,840 over 4 years. But the vote tonight is saying 3 years with different dates, but the same dollar amount. So is it a 4-year, or is it a 3-year? And if it's a 4-year, then we need to change the dates on the motion. If it's not, then we need to correct our executive summary, because they conflict.
The payment will be over 4 years, 4 fiscal years, so it'll hit FY17, FY19, FY20, and FY21. But the actual length of time is 3 years. So we will clarify one or the other, but the payment is made in 4 fiscal years, and it's essentially 3 years and 1 day that the actual term of the lease will be.
Okay, so the
Right.
executive summary is not incorrect, but is incorrect, but the motion is correct. Basically, that's what you're saying.
No.
3 years versus 4 years, because even the
So
dates
is
are
it
different.
It is 4 payments.
It's 4 payments.
So it really is that the motion is incorrect. It
Right.
really is. It's over a 4-year, it's a 4 years and 1 day.
It's a 3-year and 1 day, so therefore it is over 4 years.
So
yes.
it
Should be to 2020.
It should say 2020, which is what the
Yeah.
the
I don't
payment
have the
schedule
motion in
from
front of me, sorry.
Androscoggin says.
Right.
What it is that extra day is,
Next year.
So this is a technical correction to the motion? I don't know if that
But we can
needs to
just,
be.
no, we can just
moved.
amend the motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So I would just, I guess, move to amend for a term of 4 years from June 30th, 2017 to July 1, 2020.
Yes, thank you.
That would be my amendment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a second or not. but-
Seconded by Mr. Eater. Is there any questions on the amendment? Seeing none, any public comment on the amendment? Seeing none, any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment to a 4-year contract ending in July 2020? It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. Back to the main motion. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Ms. Atzenbuehler.
I just want to thank our staff for being really creative and figuring out a way for us to get this done, because it's a great, it adds a lot of value to student achievement, hopefully. So, and I love when people can figure out creative ways and to leverage their relationships with local banks or whatever to figure that out. So I think it's great. And thank you very much for doing that.
Ms. Davis.
I'm also thrilled to see this happen because I think while we thought the iPads were a good solution, the reality is that they have some limitations, and particularly for writing term papers and, the kinds of things that many high school students need to do. It's kind of created an uneven playing field for some of our students who some have access to laptops and other hardware, which is a little easier to use for that kind of intensive keyboarding. So these, I think, may be a better option and really level the playing field for all our students. So I'm pleased to support this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of authorizing the board chair and superintendent to sign a lease agreement to purchase Chromebooks for a term of 4 years from June 30th, 2017 to July 1, 2020, not to exceed $668,840, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student in the affirmative. Consideration and action to appoint Sheila Jepson as member of the Administrator Recertification Renewal Committee Board, ARRC, with Ann Hanna as an alternate for a term of 3 years, as recommended by the superintendent and the PAA. Is there a motion? Ms. Vendel, seconded by Mr. Eder. Would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
Yes. This is a part of a state requirement that we have a recertification renewal committee at the district level to review administrator recertification plans. Part of the requirement is that the school district appoint and that the board approve the membership in that committee. The recommendations that we have are the ones that resulted from our dialogue with with PAA about who was on the committee and who should continue to be there. So this is, I understand, something that happens every 3 years, although that is, we've not been able to find evidence that this was done 3 years ago. But it is something that by law we're required to do. So that's why we have it in front of you. And so what these folks do basically is review every administrator's certification plan, approve it, question and monitor that recertification plan. It's a very Maine thing.
Are there any questions on the motion?
We're proud of it.
Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Ms. Thompson?
Dr. McKean instead of Dr. Botana. I was just,
So that is the superintendent of the Portland, Oregon. That's the interim superintendent of the Portland, Oregon.
I thought maybe
This
you had
is
a name
not the letter. I
change.
did not write this letter. This letter was directed to us at our address, but with the other, so I'm going to ask you to bring that when you head over there.
We'll give you the doctor title if you'd like, but
I'll take it.
unless you want to be Robert instead of Javier.
No, I like Javier. Good.
Thank you.
I was thinking I didn't recognize that name.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of appointing Sheila Jepson as member of the Administrator Recertification Renewal Committee Board, ARRC, with Anna Hanna as an alternate for a term of 3 years as recommended by the superintendent and the PAA, please indicate. It's Mr. Eder. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative.
Do I need to pinch you?
Okay, now we have a first read to revise policy JICC, Student Bus Conduct Code. And where it is a first read, there is no discussion on that.
Please look at it.
Moving into consideration and action to approve a contract agreement between the Portland Board of Public Education and the Educational Technician Association. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. Would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
Yes, and I'll ask Barb Stoddard to walk through with any highlights of the contract. We met in executive session to discuss this. I think the board is familiar with the terms. I believe that this was ratified by the EdTech Association membership earlier today. So I think that this was a long and arduous process, but I do believe that we have a contract that is worthy of your support, and so I'll ask Barb to give us some highlights.
Yes, we're very excited this afternoon that it was ratified by the bargaining unit. This unit has been without a contract this year, so we're very keen to see this passed tonight and approved by the board so that the unit can get their retro pay for this year, which we can only do up until June 30th. We ultimately settled on a 2-year contract. We came in asking for 3, thinking we were going to get a 3, but we've settled on a 2, and so that will be current year and next year. The settlement was a cost of living adjustment of 1% in steps in the first year and a cost of living adjustment of 1.5% in steps in the second year. There were a lot of language cleanup that we did in terms of legal language and just tightening things up. Some high-level other things that we worked on in this contract were clarifying some language in terms of the board's right to assign and transfer staff, clarifying some things in the sick leave area. We now have a standard for the sick leave bank using FMLA. We also did some work around the sick bank itself, and in terms of the repayment of days, we've changed that in the contract. In terms of educational improvement, we have switched the professional development there to be based on USM versus UNE, and also done some other language tweaking in the professional development area in terms of the relevancy of the courses that they would be taking. We made a few changes in terms of the leave of absence availability, a few things in their working hours and conditions, clarified that vacation cannot be used on student work days or workshop days. And really one of the most important things is we clarified the impact areas. We broke up an impact area that has been combined, which separates out classroom from special ed techs, and so that'll be really, really helpful if we ever have a situation where we have some reductions. Other than that, we did one other clarification and refined in our flexible benefits. We added a low deductible health insurance option, which would really benefit anyone who has either a family plan or two-person. They could save money, and the district would save money as well in that situation. Other than that, 2-year contract, retroactive pay for this year. We think it's a good plan. We would like to see it closed up tonight. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Ms. Thompson.
I just want to thank, as everybody has for the other contracts, the staff, but also for the ed techs hanging in there and working with us and coming back to the table. And I greatly appreciate the collaboration that went into this. Thank you.
And I do as well. I was the board representative to this bargaining unit, and I want to recognize we do have some members of that team in our audience tonight. Thanks for sticking with us. And you know, the tenor throughout, we started this back in April of last year, so it's been well over a year. And the tenor throughout has been, you know, it's just been very enjoyable to work with this group. And I think I speak for the board in recognizing that the ed techs really do represent the lifeblood of our organization, and we appreciate the work that this group does. Certainly, in my experience, never once did I doubt that this group was really, at heart, had the interest of the students in mind. So, thank you. And with that, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving a contract agreement between the Portland Board of Public Education and the Educational Technician Association, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative and one abstention. Ms. Vendel. Okay. Moving into personnel. Consideration and action to approve the personnel items listed. Is there a motion? Ms. Vendel, seconded by Ms. Thompson. Would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
Yes, this first motion is to rehire a teacher from a one-year-only position. Ms. Haffenreffer at Riverton is being rehired from a one-year-only position, and this is included in the budget.
Any questions on the motion? Seeing none, or this is a personnel item, there is no public comment. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the personnel items listed, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. Consideration and action to approve the personnel items listed. Is there a motion? Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Hatzenbuehler. Would the superintendent like to speak to this motion?
Yes, this is another personnel item. This is to employ 2 probationary teachers. Ms. Maria Florencia Sobral de Lía is going to be one of our Spanish immersion teachers at LICEF. And Miss Elizabeth Hampton is the college transition counselor here at Casco Bay High School. And again, those are 2 positions that were budgeted.
Are there any questions on the motion? Seeing none, again, it's a personnel matter and there is no public comment. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the personnel items listed, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative. And consideration and action to approve the personnel items listed. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Ms. Vendel. Would the superintendent like to speak to the motion?
I'm going to ask Assistant Superintendent Crocker to do that.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Botana. I'd invite Sarah Soroy to come forward to the podium, please. And thank you for hanging in with us to almost the very bitter end. Ms. Soroy is currently the teaching strategist at Moore Middle School. She brings with her a great deal of passion, enthusiasm, and energy, and that's what's going to help us so much next year, especially at Hall School, because it is going to be quite a year. And you're shaking your head, so you're well prepared. So we are very appreciative of your interest in that position and your commitment to the Portland Public Schools. Wish you well in the position and offer you an opportunity to make any remarks that you might like to
wait
the
until
board.
the board. We should probably wait until the board acts on it. Just
Okay. Are there any questions on the motion? Or, yeah, that's where we're at. Seeing none, there is no public comment. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the personnel item listed, please indicate. It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative, and we would invite you to say a few words if you'd like.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate confirming me tonight. I've worked at Lyman Moore as a teaching strategist for the past 4 years, and I've worked on positive behavior support systems and multi-tiered systems of student support alongside the assistant principal and the principal. And I've grown as a leader so much in the past 4 years, and I am so honored at the opportunity to have a leadership position at Portland Public Schools, and I'm very excited. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Sarah, your family is with us tonight? Yeah. Great. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to board focus on educational issues. We have a side-by-side presentation.
Yep. So very quickly, as we get started with the presentation, Side by Side is a great partner organization for the Portland Public Schools. They have been working with us as part of a major federal grants focused on arts integration. And over the course of the year, I've had the opportunity to work with them and to witness the amazing work that they do in our schools. So I'm pleased to introduce Beth Van Merlo to give a presentation and an overview. I realize that the board does not have a lot of background on this partnership, and we are trying over the coming sessions to provide the board with background information on some of the tremendous partners that work with us to add value, and this is a great place to start. So Beth, want to take it away?
Yes, thank you very much, and I'd like to introduce my friend and partner Gretchen Berg, who is the teaching artist expert and coordinator of Side by Side. So first of all, thank you for letting us present tonight, and I know you guys are probably tired, so we put together a little slideshow for you, and we're going to do some acting by the end of it, so just prepare yourself. I'm kidding. Don't worry. This is going to be quick. So Side by Side is a nonprofit organization that uses the arts to teach Common Core subjects, including language arts, science, math, and social studies. Combining the arts with Common Core content areas has been shown to increase student academic achievement while developing positive positive character traits. Our framework provides programming that's accessible to all students across the learning spectrum, and our projects promote soft skills such as problem solving, teamwork and collaboration, critical thinking, not being afraid to fail, adaptability, critical observation, constructive and effective communication, and confidence.
Okay, I'm just going to give you a sense of how it works. So I'm the lead teaching artist, so I'm in here deeply. Every event, every project we do in every school starts with a launch, kind of a kickoff event, and that's when we bring in visiting content experts to work with the students and teachers. So it could be a marine biologist, it could be a weatherman, it could be Revolutionary War reenactor. In this case, it's George Neptune, who you may know. He's a world-class basket maker, he's a Passamaquoddy storyteller, and he launched the Wabanaki Studies at Ocean Avenue, Riverton, and East End. And these kids started this project, they became experts, and the culminating arts projects included physical theater performances, films, and some permanent in-school murals. So every project we do, we bring in somebody to launch things with teachers and kids. And this is we're in a bunch of schools here in Portland. We're very deeply in Reiki, Riverton, Ocean Avenue, and East End, and now we're also in Hall, King, and Presumpscot, and Peaks Island, and Casco Bay. Anyway, we're going to give you just a sense of who we work with. Kindergarten programs, we work in all these kindergartens. The movement projects, which is up the upper left, really has to do with storytelling, really telling stories in some ways. The printmaking was a literacy project, and the kids were taking the understanding of where the wild things are and making their own work based in that with teachers and visiting artists. First grades, this last year, I've been working on making books. And all the books that they created were all created out of their study of Maine animals.
And there's writing inside these books. I'm sorry we didn't bring the examples. You're just seeing the artwork, but the writing is phenomenal inside these books.
Yeah, so it really does combine all forms of literacy. Second grade, students work with three-dimensional expert artists. And in the different schools, some schools were studying landforms. They created those, and some were doing sea creatures. And these are kind of astounding pieces. Quite a few of these actually ended up at the Portland Public Library on exhibit, these pieces they've been building. Third grades, mostly studying Portland history, and built maps, lots of maps of Portland that were all correct. Permanent murals that have been, they're now up in several schools. Those are some of the panels. Some of those murals, parts of them were shown at the Maine Historical Society just this last week. And I also worked on performances based on Portland history and Wabanaki stories. Yeah, there I am. Fourth grade. Okay, we worked a lot on American Revolution. They were all studying American Revolution. Also weather. So performances that really let these kids build and take their idea and understanding and show them, especially for instance, these fourth graders perform for third graders. So the third graders go, oh yeah, they get a jump on weather, they get a jump on the revolution, so when they come in, they know even more. And this year, fifth grade worked in film, and the filmmakers made works about immigration, migration, and those lower left, they were involved in some Revolutionary War work as well.
And Javier was actually featured in one of our fifth grade films, which we will get eventually. As soon as we can figure out how to zip that and get it on a disc, we will have that available.
That was the best day of the year.
It was really fantastic. The kids learned interviewing skills. They were very thoughtful about the questions that they asked. And I have to say, this film, it was 45 minutes long in the end, and people stayed in the library for 45 minutes to watch from beginning to end, and we all cried. So it was a really spectacular program, and the students learned a lot, the teachers learned a lot, the aides that were in the school, the librarians, everybody, the art teacher, they were all involved in this project. Somehow they were walking by and they got sucked in. It was pretty incredible. So at some point we'll get that to you guys.
Got a chance to work in King Middle School. on their Truth or Consequences expedition, which is really about research and persuasive writing and, essentially propaganda, right? Imagery. And so they worked with a graphic artist, Lori Downey, as a visiting artist, and made these pieces that included visual art as well as their own texts and their own oral presentations of these policy ideas.
And they culminated at down on the waterfront. They had graphs that they also created. They wove in all kinds of different content from math to their history. This again was really powerful piece.
Yeah, and King also, it's an expeditionary learning program where these kids work deeply in big ideas. These guys were working on May the Forces Be With You, and they were thinking about natural phenomenon and building these performances based on mythology. That included, down the lower right, you can see some performances they did that were shadow puppetry with a teaching artist from Side by Side.
And you want me to talk about this one?
Sure.
Why not? This is where we began, probably 4 years ago, I believe. This is Casco Bay High School. We brought in a computer programmer and engineer. We brought in some USM interns who were sculptors. And we had probably 18 or 19 Casco Bay High School students for a week. We taught them computer programming through Arduino boards. They all had inputs and outputs. And the students were tasked with the idea of creating a sculpture that would interact with its audience without anybody standing next to it. So the fish up in the right-hand corner, they researched, what I forget what those fish are called. With
They're
that
down
little
deep, down deep fish.
glow-in-the-dark ones. I forget, anglerfish or something like that. And inside are the guts of the Arduino. That's the electronic piece. And so they spent 2 days programming that to interact in a way that they would guess the audience member would really be thrilled with. So as you walked up to this anglerfish and you made a little bit of noise, it lit up and it would change the light inside through a rainbow array, I guess. And they had to learn how to time it. So all the kids had long LED light strips, but then they either had a force sensor, a distance sensor, or a microphone. And they didn't get to choose those. That's what they got, and that's what they had to work with. And they had to make all of their sculptures a little bit different, so no two were the same. And, again, this was just a phenomenal, fantastic project. We did it in a week, which was unbelievable. These kids came in January and stood outside of Oak Street Studios on Congress Street at like 7:30, waiting to get in at 8. They showed up every single day, all 18 of them, and completed these unbelievable projects. So this is where we began, one of the places we began.
We get a chance to work in the classrooms with all these teachers and to help them continue to become experts on using the arts in their own classroom teaching. We offer these, we call them boosters, but the professional development events throughout the school year. So they can come and work with teaching artists and learn some new ways to use the arts in their teaching. And it's just one of the ways we're committed to helping teachers teach.
So, you can't really see this, but anyway, this is a quick highlight of Side by Side. So in the 2013-14 school year, I partnered with a professor from the University of Southern Maine named Kelly Horenko, and we decided to write a federal grant to try to support some of the programs we had started as volunteers at Reiki and Casco Bay High School. So we wrote a federal Department of Education Arts in Education Development and Dissemination Grant. And we were fortunate enough in the fall of 2014 to be awarded $1.9 million to test the model we had come up with and study it. So this is why we're in so many schools at the moment in Portland. And then this past school year, we were again awarded another $112. $112. Woo! $112,000.
Be careful.
to TIPA, our federal award, just over $2 million. And I believe that we're the first arts grant of this size in Maine and one of the largest in New England. So this is a pretty big deal that's happening here in Portland, not to mention how much fun it is. So these are this is where we started, year 1, 2, 3. Our projected next year will be in 9 schools across the district, serving over 2,000 students, over 100 teachers. We have 18 teaching artists at the moment, and hopefully we'll have about 24 visiting experts. And those are the people that Gretchen was talking to you about earlier. We bring in meteorologists, architects, mathematicians, George Neptune, who's a storyteller. We've brought in marine biologists and scientists. We've brought in map makers. Is this me too? Yeah, so this is me also.
You can do it. I can do it. Want me to read it?
Sure, you take it away.
Oh, sure. So, anyway, here's another slide. Look, there's another slide up there.
Look at those kids.
Look at them. So a key component of this DOE grant is this ongoing assessment by outside evaluators. It's called the EDC, has been doing the assessment. Preliminary data shows that curriculums rich in arts integrated activities are linked to across-the-board achievement and retention increases. And these achievements have been shown to benefit students even after they leave the classroom. What they found is that there's this link to increased retention due to the fact that each student, the time they use information in new and different ways, that they embed this information slightly more profoundly. And we're getting checked out on this notion deeply by this outfit called EDC. So they are very much a very part of this evaluation.
So this is one of my favorite things. All of the community partners that we work with, we've partnered with USM and, of course, the Portland Public School District. But we also hold our professional developments and some of our PD boosters at the Portland Museum of Art. We showcase some of our work at the Portland Public Library, as well as their librarians create bibliographies for our school teachers. So if we give them the content and the program and the projects that we're doing, they'll come up with a list of books that will help support the work in the classroom. King Middle School, we were able to go into 2 of their programs this year, 2 of their projects this year through a Horizon Foundation grant. Oak Street Studios is another business that I run, so we partner. Maine Historic Society, again, will help in any content areas to sort of add to the depth of knowledge for our students and our teachers. Tempo Arts, we've been partnering with them. Ovations Off Stage, Mayo Street Arts, Greater Portland Landmarks, and I think you guys also know about School Square. We've been doing some programs with them. We love partners and collaboration. I can't say that enough. It really makes for a very rich experience for everyone that's involved.
So on Monday, we start our big summer, 2-day Summer Arts Institute starts Monday. And we'll be hosted again at the Portland Museum of Art. We'll have about 72 teachers, staff members from our 9 participating schools, as well as we have a sort of evaluation kind of control business as usual schools. So those guys get to come too. So we get to have some people that we haven't had a chance to be in their classrooms yet, but they're going to come work with us hard for 2 days. There'll be 18 teaching artists, and actually have several out-of-district teachers who we met at conferences who want to come. And one is being sent from a district in Massachusetts who wants to copy this. We said, okay. So they're coming. We're going to be nice to them. It's just an amazing 2 days of work, and you guys are really invited. You should come. It's really a gas. If you want to come, let us know. It's a chance for teachers and teaching artists to work together, and the major thing is to make art together, and also to get a chance to feel like that's what that feels like in the same way we ask our students to be making and learning. And we also plan the next year. So come. You're so invited if you want to come see what's going on.
Just let us know. We do
let
have
us
to
know.
let the
We'll get
PMA
you in.
know.
We gotta get your butt. But,
We have to get you a special sticker.
It's 2 big days on Monday and Tuesday, and the teachers will come.
And it's all over town. It's at the PMA, it's at different breakout sessions, studios across
USM,
Portland,
we're all over.
USM, so just let us know. And then, any questions?
Want to go home?
That's a great way to end.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you very
So
much.
just very quickly, Beth and Gretchen, the work that you guys are doing is amazing. As I said earlier, I think that the depth of the work that's happening in our classrooms, in those partnerships between the visiting artists, the teaching artists that are embedded in the classrooms working with teachers is absolutely amazing. It really is helping our teachers to really think through their practice and how to make the learning real to kids and to use different medias to express themselves in ways that makes a huge difference. So I've seen the work of the students and how engaged they are and how deeply they're thinking about whatever it is, whether it's the immigration project, whether it's, the murals, whatever it might be. It's just, it's incredible. And so I really do think it's important for all of us to sort of take stock of those kinds of partnerships, because that's the kind of work that is really transforming outcomes for our students. So it's hugely important, and that's why I thought it was really important for you guys to have an opportunity to be here with the board. We also we're ready to apply for another grant to be able to take this to a larger number of schools, and we're not able to do that because we did not meet the eligibility threshold by the Department of Education, and so that was a huge disappointment because they are entering the last year of their federal grant, and again, it's a very substantive amount of money, and being able to figure out how to sustain this type of work without that level of funding is going to be extremely challenging. So,
Thank you. Feel free to share any funding ideas you may have with us also.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
As someone who just submitted a federal Department of Ed grant, sometimes the way that you need to look at it, because of Portland's demographics that don't always meet the needs, is by partnering with other districts that have demographics that help you.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the only way I've found around it in some
Yeah.
cases, so.
Yeah.
But that's too bad. Nah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, Ms. Thompson.
No, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you, because I mean, just from your presentation to the passion comes through, so I can see how the students are really engaged, and thank you for hanging in there with us, but also for doing this. I remember when the launch with USM at Reiki, and very exciting, and how you've grown it is just amazing. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and where it is before the hour of 10 p.m., we will take public comment on any items not listed on this evening's agenda. Seeing no public comment, I'll close the public comment and call for a motion for adjournment. Ms. Hatzenbuehler, seconded by Ms. Seeliger. All those in favor? It's unanimous with the student voting in the affirmative.